Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my podcast. My name is Corrinala, and I'm coming to you from the Pacific Northwest, where I live with my partner, our two kitties, and my two horses. I'm walking out the barn. It's about 6 a.m. on Friday, must be the 12th, to feed those horses. So it's just about daybreak. Hopefully you can hear all the birds with their morning song. Normally I have Fridays off, but I am working today because I had a dentist appointment earlier in the week that was kind of disruptive. And also the sun came out, so I opted to take a long lunch and go for a bike ride. I have a little bit of video about that and the map. I will also have for you a couple snips of horse rides and the maps from that. I think we did another bike ride last Sunday morning, so I might have some of that, can't remember. And of course some knitting. So I do have a finished object. I have a new cast on, and I have a couple works in progress that I'm really taking my time on. So I hope you enjoy today's content. A little bit of life stuff, a little bit of horse stuff, but really I'm just kind of keeping on. There's Odin waiting for breakfast. It's starting to rain a little bit, but I think it's just supposed to be cloudy and even sunnier this afternoon. And nice tomorrow, so I'm planning on going for a ride. All right, I'm going to start feeding. Good morning, everyone. So welcome to the knitting portion of my podcast. I just came back up from the barn from feeding the horses, and I still have about a half hour before I need to arrive at work, which is, my commute is down to my basement. I'm working on my second cup of tea for the morning. I'm going to work a couple hours this morning, and then my trainer's coming to help me work with Bragi, so that journey is still happening with my younger Mustang. He is a very, I'm going to use the word slow. He's a very slow learner. Part of it is he doesn't have a lot of confidence. He's young. And he also has strong opinions about how things should be. Like, he should never be separated from his buddy, Odin. Odin is 12 this year. I've had him for 6 years. Bragi is 6, and I've had him for 4 years. Odin was 6 when I got him, so he already had, and he'd been out in the wild at that point. So I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but both horses are Mustangs, and I adopted them through the Wild Horse Adoption Program, and I have a link in my show notes below. So just click on underneath this podcast. You will see maybe a partial sentence, and then it says more, and just click on that if you're not familiar with the way YouTube works. So Odin was in the wild until his 6th year, and so he already had a well-developed sense of self and some confidence, because you have to be confident in order to survive out there in the wild. And I know the Wild Horse Adoption Program is controversial. Horses theoretically are not supposed to go to the slaughter pipeline any longer, but it happens. And so since these horses were already gathered by the Bureau of Land Management, and I wanted a couple great horses, I adopted Mustangs. Also, I will say that the average lifespan of a wild horse is 7 years. So Odin would have been an old man by then, and he has already lived twice that long. So far, and my veterinarian says he'll probably live until he's 30. I hope so. Um, I didn't really mean to start talking about horses right away, but since I just came up from the barn, it was kind of on my mind and thinking about my day. So all that to say, Bragi is super attached to Odin and isn't necessarily learning very quickly the ways of domestic horses. And so we're just taking our time. I'm in no rush. Odin is my riding horse. We go out on trails and ride with friends, and he's very willing to get in the trailer and go places. That's why bragging learning this is not a high priority, but it is a priority because being a domestic horse, there are some responsibilities that horses need to have in order to remain safe, to not end up in that slaughter pipeline either to Canada or Mexico, which that the idea that breaks my heart. That's why I spend a lot of time and money and effort doing this. I'm also not in a hurry for Bragi to be a riding horse because I have a full-time job, and it's quite an accomplishment for me to get out and ride Odin once a week and sometimes twice a week, which I did last week. So, shall we talk about knitting? I have a finished object. If you follow me on Instagram, you've seen this. This is my Calliope sweater. It's boxy. I was playing yarn chicken. This is not blocked. So this goes about down to my elbows. This is a fingering weight yarn held double. It's a custom, no, not custom. It's a hand-dyed yarn dyed by Ray Whiting of Knittivity. I have a link to that. This is a Raglan design. Again, Calliope. It's a, kind of a long ribbed neckline, and then mostly stockinette. This is very boxy. I will knit another one of these because I have plenty of fingering weight yarn and more mohair. I'm going to make it much more fitted. The recommended ease is 10 to 14 inches, and I read that and thought, okay. But that's just a little bit too big for what I'm comfortable with. So, but I've already worn this, and that's awesome. So I have some works in progress. You have seen these before. This is the second sock out of the 52 weeks of socks. So it has a little colorwork section. I use Chowgu red lace needles, size 0. And then for the colorwork section, I use a size, I think it's a size 2 for that, because the colorwork section tends to scooch in. So, size 1, 2.5 millimeter. These are Addy Flexi Flips. So 3 needles that have a little flexible piece in the middle that makes it pretty easy, double pointed, and you can put the bottom part of the foot and the top part of the foot each on their own needle. These socks are called Mica or Mica from this book, 52 Weeks of Socks. This is sock pattern number 15. MICA. Here is what it looks like. I used a Legacy Fiber Arts Christmas Advent. I forgot what they call it. It's a 50-gram skein. For their Advent, you get 4 50-gram skeins with a contrast color. The contrast color that came with it wasn't quite contrasty enough. It's a lavender. It's very pretty, and it would have made a very pretty cuff and heel and toe. But since I'm doing this color work, I picked another yarn that I have a feeling is a Knit Picks. Not sure if it's a gloss or stroll. Here is the first finished sock and it has a little colorwork section at the toe also. That's that finished up, or whip. Probably will have that finished for my the next time I record. And here's one I've been really taking my time on. I was making a lot of progress. This is the Cryptid Cowl by Pacific Knits Co. It is a colorwork cowl. It's a double-sided colorwork cowl. So the first part is this Sasquatch or Bigfoot strolling through the forest, very Pacific Northwest. The second part is the Loch Ness Monster. I am using mostly Knit Picks yarn, except for this dark color. Let me see if I can hold this so you can see it. This darker color is Spin Cycle. This is sport weight yarn. However, the sport weight is, the Spin Cycle is a much lighter version. So when I started knitting this section, which is all Knit Picks, it was just a lot denser. So I ended up ripping a lot of it out and switching to a larger size needle. So it would have some of the same feel. What is gonna happen, you'll see this ridge row here. So this will fold in half so that probably Bigfoot will be on the outside, Loch Ness Monster will be on the inside, and it'll be reversible. So Chogu red lace, size 6. These I believe are size 4. I can double check on that. So this is knit upside down. So this is like the sky part. So opposite of this. So it's almost like you're looking into a lake, I suppose. And I'm just started on the Loch Ness part. Let me see where that is. It would be on this section here, because it's always the beginning section. It's just really hard to see at this point. So it'll be a lot more obvious when I get through it. I'm just in the first few rows of the actual Cryptid. So I could have that finished maybe next week. We'll see. Let me verify with you the needles. So the bottom part, so the Bigfoot side was knit in US size 4, 3.5 millimeter. The this part, the top part, is the US size 6, so 4 millimeter needles. I don't have anything else in there I want to share. Since it's not really cowl season, it's definitely getting to be a much more spring-like, even though the mornings can be still quite chilly. I mean, it got down into the 30s this morning and earlier this week. So, you know, still, at least when I'm going out to the barn, it's still jacket and hat weather. So by afternoon, though, it's kind of more like just long sleeves. And maybe a vest. So, new cast on. Since I finished the Calliope sweater, of course, I had to cast on a new project. I forgot to talk about the bag. So there's only one bag that I have that I'm using right now that's made by my mom. So this pretty purple flowers, very spring-like. Lined with a purple inside. Simple drawstring bag, perfect for carrying a book of patterns and socks. The other bag, I can't remember. I think that was the Washington State Environmental Health Association bag that I got at a conference last year. And this one, I dug out of the archives is, I think, supposed to be a shopping bag that my late mother-in-law gave me quite some years ago. I mean, she had passed in 2017, so it was definitely several years before that. So what is on my needles? This is really fun. This is a Raglan sweater, just a kind of a do-it-yourself Raglan pattern. There's no short rows or anything. I'm using fingering weight held double, using 2 skeins of hand-dyed yarn by Nativity, held double with scraps. So this top part is held by with a mini left over from a cowl that I made. So the theme of this is green. This kind of brown, let's see if I can show you better, is a mini from a Polka Dot Creek Halloween Advent. The next section here, this kind of darker green, is I believe it is a row 1 mini from a Yarns Month of the Club subscription I had for a while. So I'm almost done with that, and I will go back into another Polka Dot Creek Halloween Advent mini. So it's going to look more like this with some more brown in it. So that's how I'm planning on doing this, is alternating, and I will show you the base yarn I'm using. So it's kind of a, it looks gray in this, but there's definitely more of a green shade to it in real life. And it is a cool color. And I think it's contrasting nicely with the warm, many of the warm greens. So this is my bag of minis that I'm using that all have some sort of green in them. So anywhere from this green, this is a row 1 mini, to this super bright green, which is a Polka Dot Creek Christmas Advent leftover yarn. There's this yarn. This is leftover from, I think this is a hand-dyed sock yarn from Skein and Tipple. This is a self-striping leftover yarn from Freckled Whimsy. This is leftover yarn from a tunic I crocheted many, many years ago, and so on. So here's another green mini from the Christmas Polka Dot Creek Christmas Advent. This is a mini that I got from a scrappy exchange. What else? Here's an example of the Polka Dot Creek Halloween mini. So that's what I'm winding up. I am using Magic Knot to attach these. Here's another row 1 mini. And here's even a dark one. So this one may go way down at the hem. So the ribbing is a US size 3. So it's fingering held double, which is a DK weight. And then the needles for the main, I'm still on the yoke increases, regular increases. I'm using a US size 5. And I think these are clover. So about 20 rows, 25 rows in, and I'll increase till about maybe 90-ish rows before I split for sleeves. And it'll be interesting to see what, what kind of yarn chicken I'm playing with. When I started, there was about 250 grams or more of the scraps yarn. And then these, of course, are 2 full skeins of fingering weight yarn for about 200 grams of that. And I think they're like 450 yards each. So I may be, this may be 3/4 length sleeve. I really like the fabric. I don't think I've ever knit a garment out of superwash yarn. I kind of like it. I know it may not hold its shape as well. I really like the way it feels. It's very, there's hardly any wool feel to it. So, you know, if you have a little wool sensitivity, this is actually a really nice option. So that's the knitting. I am knitting a lot, spending a lot of my morning and evening time knitting on this Raglan sweater. I am being disciplined enough to knit some of the cowl and some of the socks at some point. So my cup was on a cup warmer, so it's quite warm on the bottom. So that's why I had to do that. It's kind of strange switcheroo. So that's it for the knitting content. Sorry, that doesn't need to be in your field of view. So if that's what you're here for, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. If you are interested in more of the life stuff, I will have some videos of, which I already mentioned actually in the, when I was walking out to the barn, you know, just some of the activities that I've done since I saw you last, or you saw me last. And I could just talk a little bit about life stuff. I am reading a book on my Kindle called The Clockmaker's Daughter by Katie Morton or Moulton. I can't remember. It'll be in my show notes. So kind of a strange book with lots of threads coming together. And I've been introduced to The Clockmaker's Daughter in this so far. It's a very long book. I don't quite understand why the book is called The Clockmaker's Daughter yet, why that is the title, which implies a central theme to me. There is some historical pieces of it. The book starts with a young woman who works as an archivist, and I think maybe at a museum, and discovers as she's going through the archives some art that's meaningful to her, and that she feels like she recognizes at least the image from a story that she was told as a young girl. So that is, I'm very interested in how all of this ties together. It has been an engaging book, even though I'm not quite sure where it goes. The chapter I read last night was a little bit disturbing, and it ended in a cliffhanger place. And the next chapter started with one of the other threads. So it's like, okay, time to go to sleep. Other life stuff, just kind of back to horse stuff. So you might remember, if you've been with me for a while, I fostered a thoroughbred, an older thoroughbred gelding, for a while last year. It turned out not to be a good environment for him. This horse had arthritis, and the pens that I have, where he spent most of his time, they're packed gravel, and it was too ouchy for him. So I had him for about 6 weeks. He was also, I think the pain from the arthritis made him pretty grumpy and a little bit fairly reactive, and not always easy to handle and reason with. So he found another foster mom that had a lot softer ground, more sand-based ground for him to be on. And I think they were trying to find a permanent home for him. And I had kept in touch. My farrier, it was also his farrier, and my farrier had indicated that he was clearly in a lot of pain from the arthritis, and it was making him very grumpy. But I learned earlier this week that he had passed away at age 22. So that was a little heartbreaking. The horse came from a starvation situation the previous fall, in the fall of 2022, where he had a number of other herd mates, some who did not make it to rehab and foster care because they were in such poor condition. He was rehabbed successfully. And then again went out to foster care and adoption, but his time outside of that starvation situation was really it was less than 2 years. So a sad ending, no, not a sad ending for a horse, but a sad life for a horse. And when I talk about Bragi and my responsibilities to Bragi to teach him to be a responsible citizen in our human world, and that he has some responsibilities, it's really to avoid those situations where he ends up in I'm just going to say a pasture of neglect, where you know, he's forgotten, or he is too reactive or untrained enough for someone to be able to handle him reasonably. He needs to develop trust and a relationship with humans, and that is my primary goal with him. Again, that's, you know, avoid the neglect, starvation, or slaughter pipeline. So horses, even though if domestic horses, there is definitely no certainty in their life. So I clearly advocate for horses and any animal that we humans choose to take responsibility for, just to, you know, give them a satisfactory life that isn't like jail, where they're in a stall all the time, or neglect. So it's I think the way we care for animals tends to parallel the way we care for other humans, and I think the more that we can care for both, the better off that we'll be. So that's the kind of the end of my sermon, if you will. And if you've been with me for a while, you know that I have some strong opinions about these topics, and I hope that you know, certainly not to be offensive, but they are opinions and stances that I will defend. I don't think I had anything else to talk about. We are planning another overnight bicycle trip in a couple of weeks, so looking forward to that. We're going to head to the east side of the state, so we'll have some scenery from that, but that's a ways out. That's the future. I probably should end this video and get it in publication mode so that I can get to work. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy my content. I welcome any comments, any feedback, and I hope to see you soon. Bye. Odin and I opting for a solo ride today. We parked at the Pilchuck Glass School and riding up the road. Just want to show you some big trees, big cedar, big, probably Douglas fir, giant Douglas fir, more cedars right there. Well, we're gonna enjoy our ride. Still riding along. Odin chose this route, so that's where we have been. We're just staying on a gravel road, mostly because the trails are closed right now. I mean, I had the option to riding with friends in another section of the tree farm where the trails are open. However, it's been raining for the last 24 hours, and the trails are kind of slippery, so I'm not super confident on that, and I know Odin isn't either. So we opted for a gravel road ride, and this is the route he chose. April 10th, lovely spring ride, bicycle ride through the tree farm. I'm trying to capture a bird. Maybe you can see it. Some sort of a raptor flying around out there. Just getting a glimpse of it just right around the tree line. This low tree line. Anyway, long lunchtime ride, which means I'll be working on Friday. Couldn't really get a shot of the bird, but so I thought I would give you a view. So I came up this gravel road, pardon my hand in the video, and you can see immature forest and mature forest behind me. So I'll post a map when I'm finished.